Good afternoon. Welcome to our Committee of the Whole Council meeting for Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declaration of interest. Seeing none, before we move into our community announcements, I'd like to speak just for a moment about Councillor Jack Hosman, who passed away on Sunday, December the 8th. Mr. Hosman was first elected to East Gwillimbury Council in 1992 and served for 5 terms. Former Councillor Hosman had a passion for politics at both the provincial and the municipal level. Having grown up in Toronto, then moving to East Gwillimbury, Jack focused on building strong community and was an active volunteer in our community. Mr. Hosman received the Ontario Volunteer of the Year and was awarded the Bicentennial Medal of Honor by the provincial government. Our sincere condolences go to Jack's wife, Fran, and his family, and I would ask if we could stand for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. There is a book of condolences out in the foyer. If anyone hasn't signed it, it is here for the rest of the day if you'd like to sign and send a message to the family. With that, we will move into community announcements, and I would ask Councillor Foster if he could lead that off, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few things that I could mention. On December the 6th, I infiltrated Ward 3 for their tree lighting. There was a couple of remarks that I'll leave them alone. It was a good event, but I have taken some notice on what Ward 1 is going to have to do to start a healthy little competition. On the next day, the Santa Claus Parade in Mount Albert was very, very well attended. It was a good event. The old-fashioned Christmas at the temple, I don't know how many people here were there, but it was a great event. The temple was full of people selling their wares. And I should mention that I thought that yesterday's service for Jack was very fitting. Knowing Jack for a number of years, I wasn't quite sure what to expect on what kind of a service it was going to be. And there was some things that were surprising and some humorous stuff too. So I thought it was a great service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, Councillor Foster, I could offer some assistance to you and your other half down the end of the street. If you, yes, your counterpart, if you would like some assistance in getting your stuff going again over in Hall Landing, I'd be pleased to help that. And I also was able to attend the North Union CRCC's Christmas get-together following the tree lighting in Mount Albert, and it was very well done again this year, as always. And I had my granddaughter with me, and she actually had a wonderful time. So she's still talking about it. So that's about all right now, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Persechini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended two areas. The old-fashioned Christmas was really interesting. There was a lot of people, and there's some friends of mine that were out there too. So I had to see a few friends and spend some time. I walked from home and walked back. It was great exercise on top of that. And I also want to mention the chamber breakfast was really great. I heard a lot of comments from different people how well you spoke, Madam Mayor, and you know they're looking forward for all the things that are happening in East Gwillimbury. They were excited, and it was good. You did a great job, and we were all there, and so we're looking forward and as excited as the people out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I always look forward with mine, I think most of my committees and probably a good chunk of our municipality are looking forward to the holiday season, and hoping for a safe and festive one. And they're busy planning for their events in the new year. Thank you.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It certainly has been a busy time since we last met. Certainly the EG Chamber breakfast was well attended and very informative. I think we all appreciated your update, State of the Nation, as well. The tree lighting at Mount Albert Park was a good event, and we welcome Ward 1's challenge, whatever it may be in the future. So we'll look forward to that. And of course, the North Union Christmas Sing-Along was a great event, as it always is. And looking forward, we have the pancake breakfast on January 11th. So hope that many can come out and attend. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. With 7 of us on council, we often get a lot of repeats. So I'm going to highlight some events that our community is celebrating this holiday season. First of all, on December 21st, we have winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year. So after the 21st, it starts getting brighter again. So something we can all look forward to. On December 22nd, Hanukkah starts, an 8-day festival of lights. And I wish those that are celebrating a very happy Hanukkah. On December 24th, some of us start to celebrate Christmas. I'm from a Polish background, and our big celebration is on the 24th. And for other people, it's the 25th. So wishing Merry Christmas to all those who are celebrating Christmas. And lastly, December 26th to the 1st is a 7-day Kwanzaa festival, which is a festival that our African Canadian communities celebrate, where they celebrate the principles of unity, self-determination, collective responsibility, creativity, and faith. So wishing a warm and togetherness for this Kwanzaa for those who are celebrating that. And in our own Ward 1, we have our Holiday of Lights competition called Light Up the Landing. We're going to be going out with the Holland Landing Community Group this Thursday to judge the lights in town and pick a winner, which will be announced on the town website on the 20th. So looking forward to that. We always see some great competition happening as you drive around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a few that have not been mentioned, but I did want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for organizing the town-sponsored breakfast on the 10th. It's well attended, as has been already said, and certainly provides me an opportunity on behalf of all of Council to highlight our successes for 2019. I also attended the seniors luncheon held at the East Gwillimbury complex on behalf of members of Council this week, and there were just about 100 seniors that were there enjoying a lunch as well. Elf Day at the Sharon Public School is always a hit with our community, and again this year it wasn't to be worried about. The crowds were there, including some new vendors that I had seen along the way. On Saturday, I attended the Battle of the Gwillimburys, and for those people that haven't heard about this is a hockey tournament that's been running for 8 years, and it's between Bradford West Gwillimbury and their teams and East Gwillimbury, and the kickoff was on Sunday afternoon. I attended to drop the puck, and when I left the arena, we were winning. However, there were many other teams in after that, and unfortunately, I need to share with everyone that the Bradford Bulldogs won the tournament. Now, the problem with this is there's a little mayor rivalry, and so we had decided in advance that the winner would, in the case of ourselves, would be the recipient of 100 pounds of carrots from Bradford. And I had offered up 100 pounds of potatoes from East Gwillimbury. And so in January, we will be having the Bradford mayor here with his shirt, his Bulldogs shirt on, jersey, and we will have potatoes for him to take back to Bradford, and they all go to the food pantry. So they were, I believe there were 9 different teams that played over the weekend. But this is we had been the winner for the last 3 years. So I guess we let our guard down just a little bit. So we'll be enjoying that. Just a couple of other items tomorrow evening here in the Council Chambers. York Regional Police will be presenting on crime prevention tips. All members of our community are welcome to attend. The presentation will also be live streamed for those who cannot be in attendance and are interested in watching online. This is our final meeting of council for 2019. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend best wishes to all for a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and the best of the new year. A reminder that we will be hosting New Year's Eve in East Gwillimbury on the 31st at the Sports Complex, and we've been doing this for a number of years now. It's a family event for the whole family, beginning at 6 with skating and a wonderful fireworks display at 9 o'clock. So thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Webster, I will turn it over to you at this point for our presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we complete the first term or first year of this term of council, it's an important meeting in that we have an update today on the strategic initiatives and strategic plan approved by council, especially with regards to attracting employment and having a balanced and complete community. And to date, clearly, we've done a very good job of attracting new residents and have welcomed over 10,000 new residents and homeowners to our community. But the long-term goal remains that for each 2 residents, we have 1 quality employment job. And we've had a little bit of a void there. But today, at tonight's council, it's important to note that we've been working diligently at the staff level, and my colleagues at the table here from development and finance and our public works area have been working with the region of York and the town of Newmarket. And we have a report tonight for ratification by council that will allow for extension of employment land servicing up the Harry Walker Parkway area. And that is excellent news for us. And as well, I would like to introduce Margot Bégin. And Margot, maybe you could stand now. Now, Margot came to us just recently as our new manager of economic development. She's been with us, I believe she said last week, I think it's 105 days. So she's past the 100-day mark, and she's been doing a terrific job. And she has an exciting proposal here that we wanted to get before council that could be a real accomplishment and an objective for the servicing that we're working on for extension and tonight's ratification. So I'll pass it over to Margot, and she has a short presentation, and then we're going to have an overview of the proposal as well. So Margot.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to make this presentation. It's an opportunity to provide council with some background on the Automotive Campus project and highlight some of the project benefits to our community, and to identify some of the development tools that we're looking at that will help to advance this project in preparation for a more fulsome discussion in the new year. Before we start, I'd like to introduce some of the project proponents that have joined us here today. We have Michael Croxon from NewRoads Automotive Group. Beside him is Mr. Mike Rice of the Rice Group. Scott Cole of C2C Consulting, and John McGovern of Rice Group as well, who are all available to respond to questions later in the presentation, should you have any. And Mr. Croxon will be joining me as part of this presentation. So just to give you an idea of where the project is located, this slide depicts the property as outlined in blue, defined within what the 404 Employment Corridor secondary plan area, and obviously strategically located along Green Lane, which is an ideal location for an expanding business such as this one. The automotive mall concept creates a business cluster with multiple car dealerships in a single location. The project itself will comprise 7 dealerships at full build out, with potential for significant job creation and cluster development. Many of you may be familiar with this model. We're seeing similar auto mall and auto campus developments throughout the province. It's based on the idea that even though being grouped together increases immediate competition, the auto campus itself becomes more of a destination for consumers, and this benefits all participating dealerships. Consumers today typically do the bulk of their research online and want to be able to test drive multiple automobiles from multiple companies before making a final purchase decision. The individual dealerships in this construct are able to share costs and can take advantage of economies of scale that benefit all businesses. And as I continue to move projects forward, and I hope that I'll be doing that on a regular basis, you're going to hear me refer to the term high value jobs. And I want to make it very clear that that's neither a subjective nor a moral assessment, but rather an economic one that is concerned with high value jobs as an enabler of economic growth. Employers who offer full-time employment, invest in skill development, and pay the wages that increase the employee purchasing power are contributing to growth through high value jobs. Mr. Croxon will speak more later in this presentation and give you some sense of the number and composition of the jobs that this project will bring, and give you an understanding of how they are in fact high value jobs. And because I am so new, I wanted to indulge in a little using this as an example of economic development in action. And as with any sort of economic development case study, it started in preparation. And this is a project that is 1.5 years in the making and is a result of a planned business expansion that has the benefit of input from subject matter experts who have joined us today, as well as through the public consultation process that took place as part of the ongoing secondary planning process. It involves a strong partnership. It's a unique partnership between the landowner, the Rice Group, and the employer, NewRoads, and has come as a result of business growth and that evolution of the automotive dealership model that I talked about earlier. It also encompasses collaboration. The expanded Leslie Valley Servicing Agreement that you'll be discussing this evening is a result of that in collaboration. And both council and staff will continue to play a role in this ongoing collaboration through their leadership and commitment to attaining our job creation goals. It's also about development. And when we get to the development phase, as this project progresses into that phase, it will create the energy and momentum for growth along the Green Lane corridor and beyond. Successful and sustainable development requires clarity of vision, and that is achieved through the site plan approval process that will ensure that as the project evolves, it continues to align with council priorities in terms of the look and the feel of the development. And ultimately, this will result in job creation. This is a project that will brings significant job growth. More than that, it will result in capital investment, municipal revenue realized through development charges, annual tax revenue, and the potential for the creation of an automotive cluster through the attraction of related businesses and supply chain businesses that are all part of that automotive ecosystem. I thought it might be helpful just to highlight some of the key numbers in terms of this project. Based on the assumption of a development of approximately 140,000 square feet for the 7 dealerships over all phases of the project, the development charges are projected to be in the range of about $1.5 million. Taking an assessment value based on an average of sample new market dealerships, the EG share of expected annual property taxes would be in the $50,000 per annum range. And most importantly, we're looking at 400 or more jobs across a diverse range of employments and skills. There's also another exciting opportunity within this project is the opportunity to create an automotive center of excellence. We're looking at options like creating a living classroom on site for skilled trades training, or with partners like Georgian College, for example, and other industry-specific professional development. Creating a hub for electric and or hybrid vehicles within the automotive campus would offer another important opportunity to align with our municipal priorities related to the environment and to innovation. The site plan model gives you an idea of how the development will proceed, and that it offers a gateway to the Green Lane, or what will become a Green Lane business park, by opening up access with the extension of Harry Walker and securing the right-of-way to gain access to employment lands to the north of the site. This is an early iteration of the design concept, but you start to see how it has the potential to set the tone for a Green Lane business park with industry-leading and visually appealing design. The design, of course, as I said, will continue to evolve, incorporating input through the site plan approval process. There's also an opportunity for having gateway features that attract interest and ignite growth that will become this business park. I'm going to turn it over now to Michael Croxon to provide a little bit more background on the project and the range and the composition of the jobs that it will be attracted to this project.
Welcome, Mr. Croxon. Good to have you here today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Margot. And thank you to Council for accommodating me this afternoon. I'm hoping that you all know who the NewRoads Automotive Group is at this point. If you don't, I'll be taking my marketing manager to task right after the meeting. But what you may not know is a little bit of our history, and if council would grant me the time, allow me to just elaborate on that. We've been involved primarily in the Newmarket automotive business for the better part of 18 years, but it was 10 years ago when we moved our head office here, which is at the GM store at Yonge and Green Lanes, that we really became invested in the community. And when I say the community, I affectionately call it the Northern 905, because it certainly encompasses Aurora to a degree, Newmarket, and most certainly East Gwillimbury. And in fact, while only a small portion of one of our dealerships falls in East Gwillimbury, I'd invite you all to visit the newly renovated General Motors store, where we've affectionately drawn a red line down the middle of our service department and entitled one half Newmarket and one half East Gwillimbury. So I'm assuming, though I don't know this for fact, that a small portion of our tax dollars find their way into these council chambers on a semi-regular basis as a result. Tom, you can verify that for me or not. Anyway, one of the things that we operate on a number of core values, and one of those is certainly community, and I hope you've all felt that enthusiasm and influence that we've had on the community in the past decade through our various sponsorships and our various involvements in community events, both in Newmarket and in East Gwillimbury. And another of our values that we think is critically important to our success is employee engagement. And I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about that. We think that our only competitive advantage in the automotive business or the customer service business really is the quality of the associates that choose to work in our organization. And we spend an inordinate amount of time ensuring that we create an environment where people genuinely want to come to work every day. And it's with that we also spend a great deal of time and resource investing in our people, in their development and their future growth. And a lot of those people actually live in the Northern 905 and specifically in East Gwillimbury. The vision of the automotive campus came together when I realized that we had insufficient facilities to accommodate the future needs of the automotive business. It's probably no surprise to anybody that our business continues to evolve. You've probably all read the articles on the electrification of the business. And what I can tell you, and I don't know for sure, but the dealership of the future is under study by every organization that's attached to our business and every manufacturer that manufactures vehicles today. I sit on some of those committees, and the dealership of the future will not necessarily look like the dealership of today. Margot mentioned electrification. Every automotive manufacturer is spending literally billions of dollars to figure out that future in a hurry. So we suspect that our shops will be greener than ever in the future, and the automotive campus and the dealerships that will fall on that property will be built with that in mind. From a jobs perspective, Newmarket probably isn't all that happy that we'll be taking a number of jobs out of that particular community and moving them north. But the benefit that they get is that we'll be taking dealerships off of lands that are deemed for a different sort of use, specifically Yonge Street. And what we'll be able to provide at the automotive campus is a state-of-the-art facilities for our manufacturing partners and a state-of-the-art learning facility, for our associates. We do have a direct tie with the Canadian Automotive Institute, also known as Georgian College. I've challenged my people to make NewRoads the one and only best place to work for all of the co-op students that come out of there on a regular basis, and we're in the habit of employing a number of those for their terms so that they can further learn and grow within our industry. It's an exciting project. I'm very excited to be associated with Mike Rice and his team to to bring these jobs to East Gwillimbury, and I look forward to working with council in the future to make the vision a reality.
Thank you, Michael. And just so to summarize and sort of wrap things up, to define the opportunity we have in front of us and talk about some proposed next steps, I'd just like to say that this project offers a thoughtful, collaborative approach to development that supports the community's values and growth objectives. It's all about the attraction of new jobs across a diverse spectrum of skill sets, from entry level to highly skilled. And it also includes the attraction of a business with a demonstrated history as a highly engaged corporate citizen. Success in economic development requires the ability to be nimble and to respond at the speed of business. To that end, we've had some ongoing discussions internally to identify tools available to us to best support this opportunity and leverage it to achieve our municipal job creation goals. Recognizing that the secondary plan is still approximately a year away, with Council's consideration and support, we have the opportunity to utilize a ministerial zoning order in order to be able to move forward in a timely way. Mr. Ramuno can certainly speak to any questions you may have about the specifics of that process and how it fits within the context of completing the secondary plan. And of course, we also have the proponents here at your disposal should you have any questions about the project itself. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to entertaining any questions, or I'm sure the project proponents would be happy to as well.
Thank you very much. Very exciting today. Questions from members of committee? Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's very informative, and I certainly welcome any new economic development to our town. Along with that, I welcome the development charges and improvement to our commercial tax base. I know dealerships today are much different than the way they used to be. There's strict regulations by OMVIC and that insist on licensing and adherence to that, continuing education, and of course, good consumer protection. So it's very exciting for us to see a new dealership of the future here in our town. I was just wondering, other than the direct economic advantages to us welcoming this new development, could you speak to any spin-off effects that happen? So when a new dealership goes in, what are the other industries, or are there other businesses that crop up as a result of?
I can certainly start it off, and then and happy to pass it off to Mr. Croxon. But just from a physical and geographical perspective, this opens up the Harry Walker extension and allows us to access development lands that currently above that, employment lands that we don't have access to at the moment. So there's that physical benefit. But anytime you have a concentration of industries, you're also going to attract supply chain industries that are related to that, and even the economic activity that's generated from the consumers that come to purchase a vehicle. When they're coming in, they're also visiting other establishments in the community. It's creating traffic, and just the momentum that is created from having this development and doing it in a way that is with industry-leading design and very attractive, that in setting the tone, it starts to it becomes a catalyst for growth, and will be, we're very confident, the start of a very exciting cluster of development within that business park. I don't know.
Yeah, well, one of the realities last time and last time us highly confident. Reach more, bring more.
Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm really excited to hear that this development is finally going ahead, not only because it's involving the Harry Walker area and Green Lane, but I'm also excited about, I've often wondered why we haven't had it go up and down Woodbine. And I know I've mentioned it sometimes to staff, and I just think it's, when we drive down to Markham, we see the whole side of the road filled with vehicles, and I'm looking forward to seeing that up here too, and get some of our lands used as well. So thank you for moving ahead with this, and for all the ones that are involved. So,
Councillor Persechini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's an exciting time for us. The growth of the next 2031 will be exciting for all of us. Just a thought, it's good that we're going to have a mixed use in that area, but also we ever thought about, I know this is probably nothing to do with fellows here, but the hotel, it's really desperately needed somewhere along the line that is situated in where the highway is. So it would be something to think about in the future, because we definitely need a hotel, a good hotel, a convention center. Like, I know we probably a little bit too early in our time, but hey, it's the next 20 years, you know, we're going to be the first one to have something like that. It'd be nice to see down the road the planning, you know, hotel. Thank you.
Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'm not going to beat the drum again, but I think if you're going to put an auto mall beside a highway, that's probably the best spot to put it, frankly. I think that this is, again, an exciting opportunity for us. And as Mr. Croxon said, that there's an opportunity here for us to build the dealership of the future right now. And I think that's what I'd like to see this develop into. The site plan obviously is simply it's a schematic at the moment. I think there's an opportunity to be creative and innovative and think outside the box. At this point, there's 1,600 parking spots on the site plan. And that, I think we need to get creative about how we handle that, how we handle the architectural design in the site plan. And the training and development aspect of that, I'm not sure where that fits in on the site plan, if there's a specific building that's sort of a hub for the campus, but I'd like to see it a campus rather than a lineup of dealerships, because as we know, and we've heard today, that people are shopping for cars in a different way. So I'm delighted to hear about this, the idea of the training and development, that education for those high value jobs, the e-vehicles, and creating a hub for that, the adjacency to the 400 series highway. I think there's a really good synergy here. And I'm excited to hear more about what happens as far as that site plan, the architectural control, and what this looks like when we start to put some real designs on the plans. Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. Very exciting indeed. And I echo the comments about training and development. I think that is a good option to have here. We've talked about it before in the form of a university, and sometimes it's hard to make these things happen. So I really hope it's more than just a good idea, that there's actually some plans to see that come about. It's, when we're talking about automotive, talking about walkability seems counterintuitive, but if you have 450 people all working there, and you're talking about businesses going, spin-off businesses such as places to go for lunch and that sort of thing, has that been looked at about who you would attract to be within walking distance? So employees primarily, I would think, would have a place that they could walk to lunch. I think that's very important when we're talking about being a little bit more green, to make sure that the employees park their car in the morning, don't need to get back to it to go out for lunch.
Okay.
Mr. Croxon, could you take the
Yeah,
microphone?
this is-
Only
sorry, yeah.
because we're live streaming, and so
Right.
people that are listening may
Gotcha.
not hear all
Okay.
your great words that
All
you
right.
have.
Yeah, many dealerships today are built with in-house cafeterias. So when you talk about some sort of center or the walkability of it all, most don't leave any longer. They a lot of times they'll bring their lunch. A lot of the times, you know, they'll call what's the food delivery service, right? And it arrives and a lot of times we provide lunch in our busy seasons. You know, for example, just coming through tire chain seasons, we really don't like our technicians to leave if they don't have to. So we just bring lunch into the shop and they keep cranking. So it'll be interesting to see what develops in terms of options for both consumers and our associates to dine out at. But it's funny how, you know, food just seems to happen without people going too far.
I would like to see something that is walkable, and I appreciate everything that you're saying, but I'm also thinking about it from the consumer standpoint. I'm imagining going to buy a car, you go to a couple of dealerships, then you want to sit down, talk over your options over a coffee or get a bite to eat. No one makes good decisions when they're hungry.
Good point.
And again, it would be nice for it to be walkable.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see the way it evolves, because this obviously, you know, if approved, obviously doesn't, you know, happen in 6 months. All of a sudden, you've got 7 dealerships on an automotive campus. So we envision sort of it being built out over a period of time, and how that evolves and what services come in as a result of the employee and the dealerships and employees taking hold there will be interesting. I suspect that food services will be part of it.
Thank you. I hope it will.
If I may, Madam Mayor, through you, just I think in fairness to the proponents, that a lot of that work will be the responsibility of Development Services and Economic Development to be intentional in how we move forward in trying to attract the right mix of businesses that are going to not only support this growth, but also add to that whole sense of complete community and walkability.
I would guess when this gets started, and I'm not saying open the doors, but even the construction starts, we're going to be hearing about other pieces of land that are very, very close to this that are vacant at this time to supplement and augment what you're doing on the north side. Thank you very much, Mr. Croxon. It's a pleasure to have you in front of us here today. For those that don't know, that you are a very successful businessman, but you are also a very successful community leader. And we appreciate that part of the way you do business. So we're really looking forward to it, as you can tell by all of our comments here. And I won't ask when are we opening the doors, but I'm sure that we'll be getting updates on a regular basis. It's very, very exciting for us. Thank you very much. And with that, I could have a motion to receive Councillor Roy-DiClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. If you would like to leave, we will certainly understand. If you'd like to stay for our riveting afternoon, you're most welcome to do so. No, you don't. You're usually here for quite a while. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move to item 2. That's pages 14 to 22, and it's the East Gwillimbury Public Library representatives making a presentation regarding the Public Library 2019 to 2022 strategic plan. How appropriate, just following something like this. Very good. Welcome. Good to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Good afternoon, Mayor Hexton and members of Council. My name is Diana Robichaud, Chair of the East Gwillimbury Public Library Board. On behalf of the Library Board, I am pleased to present our new strategic plan, You Belong Here. I would like to introduce our 2019 to 2022 Library Board. From the back row, left to right, we have Timothy Houlihan, Claudine Mugford-Keenan, myself, Doug Rigglesworth, and John Gehan. The front row, left to right, CEO and Secretary Treasurer Monica Mahachek, Vice Chair Lena Singh, Kayla Crone, Linda Young, Council Liaison Councillor Tara Roy-DiClemente, and not pictured there is Jan Vesna.
Thanks, Diana. Hello, my name is John Guillen, and I have had the privilege and honor of being a trustee of the Library Board since 2017. The library's previous strategic plan took us from 2012 to 2017, and we had several key accomplishments. In the 5-year period of the strategic plan, the library celebrated its 40th anniversary in 2015, with events throughout the year to mark the occasion. The library opened the Holland Landing Food Pantry in 2016, which was nominated for the Government of Ontario Public Library's Minister's Award for Innovation. We increased registrations and visits and launched the popular technology loaning program, which includes hotspots, Chromebooks, GoPros, sewing machines, tablets, DVD players, webcam, circuitry kits, and robots. The library also launched a Reading Buddies program. We renovated the Holland Landing Library and installed a study room, expanded community partnerships, and outreach efforts. Diana?
The Library Board has set a new direction, a new vision, and new strategic priorities for your library services. Last year, the Library Board surveyed the community as to their priorities for library services. And along with library staff and Friends of the East Gwillimbury Library, we had a consultation session with the Southern Ontario Library Service. We distilled the information and summarized key directions and inspirations. The Library Board in 2019 proudly built upon the information and developed a new strategic plan, in-house, with a new tone and theme for the future of East Gwillimbury Public Library. Our theme is You Belong Here. We believe everyone has a place in their local library, and it is our responsibility to the community to ensure all members develop a sense of belonging in their library. We developed a new vision statement and mission. Our vision statement is that East Gwillimbury Public Library nurtures literacy in all its form and is the cultural and social heart of the community. Here you create, play, and grow, and here you belong. Our mission is to be the community's destination for learning, discovery, and connections. The East Gwillimbury Public Library works to support the town's strategic plan and builds programs and services that tie into the overall direction of our community.
The Library Board believes our pillars from the previous strategic plan, which were sustain and innovate, engage, deliver, are still the directions for library services in the future, but with different results and with a new tone of building. Our new strategic priorities are build and innovate, engage, deliver. I will now turn it over to the library's CEO to walk you through the deliverables for the library's strategic plan. Monica?
Thank you, John and Diana. My name is Monica Mahachik, and I'm the CEO for the East Gwillimbury Public Library. Our first priority is building and innovating. As we are seeing our community change and grow, we are committed to building a library service that is responsive to the evolving needs of the user and that aligns with the town's directions. The library will build services and programs that utilize and promote modern technology. Our new branch inside of the Health and Active Living Plaza will be equipped with modern features such as a maker lab and sound recording studio. And we will grow arts and culture appreciation by expanding partnerships with organizations to support promoting cultural experiences in our community. Our second priority is engagement. Engaging with our residents and businesses ensures our community is aware of the learning and discovery supports available in East Gwillimbury. Our commitment over the course of the strategic plan is to engage residents where they live, work, and play. Ensure our programs and services integrate the principles of diversity and inclusion, engage our youth and our maturing population with services designed to meet their needs, and to ensure our staff team have opportunities to thrive in their careers. Our third priority is to deliver convenient services that meet the busy lifestyle of many of our residents. We will increase self-service options, reduce barriers to access library services, leverage technology to make library resources more readily accessible, expand online resources, and grow our technology loaning program to make emerging technology available to everyone. The library is committed to becoming a destination of choice in our community for learning and discovery. Libraries help build a health and active community by nurturing literacy in all of its forms. East Gwillimbury Public Library is the community's destination for inspiring learning, discovery, and connections. Our shared resources provide free access to learning tools, which are complemented by programs and workshops designed to meet the needs of our users. The East Gwillimbury Public Library continues to look forward to developing innovating programs and services to inspire learning in EG, and we believe our new strategic plan will accomplish our mission to make all residents feel like they belong in their library. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Questions? Comments? Councillor Foster.
Thanks for the presentation to everybody who got up. That was great. I wanted to go back to the third slide with all the numbers. I was absolutely astounded at that slide. I kept going back to it and trying to digest what I was looking at. It obviously shows us that many people are reaching out to the library and reach out regularly. So again, as a bit of a comment, I couldn't help but be excited thinking that, you know, in a short number of years, we should be adding a state-of-the-art facility at the Health and Active Living Plaza. I see nothing but great things for the library as we move forward. I kept going back to this slide and the numbers were astounding to me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just more of a comment than anything else. I did want to. It was mentioned briefly by Ms. Robichaud, but the library board and its staff put together this strat plan without the expense of external consultants and so on, just as we did at the town. And just as at the town, we had a key group of people who were helping to drive that bus. So too did the library and its staff. They did an amazing job putting this together. They took all of these assorted airy-fairy ideas that the trustees had and really put some concrete ideas on paper. So I wanted to draw that to your attention. As well as, while it was subtle, I wanted to highlight it again. The theme of the town strategic plan has those puzzle pieces. And there was a fair amount of discussion about it at the board table, but what I wanted to point out was that those puzzle pieces were a sort of an inspiration for the idea that you belong here and that the library is the missing piece in the puzzle. And that was part of the theme that was put there. So the really tying together of the town and the library as partners in this effort. So just wanted to draw and highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your efforts with the library board being our representative on their board. Appreciate it very much. Councillor Carruthers, please.
Thank you so much. I too was struck by the page with all the numbers on it, and what a tremendous value we get from the money that we invest in the library for our residents. The number 721,000 revenue generated, where is revenue generated in the library?
So that number represents the course of revenue generated over the course of the strategic plan, so over 5 years. So that includes our grants that we apply for and also fines and fees that have been included.
Sorry,
fines and fees.
Fines and fees. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Monica. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I'll have to echo what everyone else is saying. I too was struck by the slide. It's impressive. You see, registration up 20%, library visits up 35%. If I didn't know better, I thought that would be a passive aggressive way of asking for more money. But we thank you for making do with what you have. I would really encourage you to let the world know about this. I think the library is just such an important touchstone in our community. It's a welcoming center for new residents, and I just think you're the perfect marriage of literature and technology. So well done, and thank you for everything that you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you to the board of directors. We have all of them here today. You're missing a couple, aren't you? But please send our thanks back to your board as well for all the good work that you do. This is an amazing volunteer organization that comes from our residents. Everybody lives in our town and gives of their time to make a difference with our library. It's not that long ago we had one library in Holland Landing. And now I know with the just over 10,000 people that have moved in the last 2.5 years, quite often their first place of dropping in isn't the town office, it's the local library. And I know you see that and you work with new residents to have them feel comfortable in our community and find their way around many of the services that they just don't know where to go. So thank you very much. Could I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We are at item E in our agenda, and that is deputations. I know that there have been people sitting here waiting very patiently. Mr. Clerk, could you introduce our deputants, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Your deputant is a resident of Fairbairn Avenue making a deputation regarding item G1. Welcome.
Good to have you with us today. We normally say around 5 minutes, but it's a big topic, and I'll certainly provide some latitude should you go over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of council. Appreciate the latitude. I'll try and keep it to 5 minutes. My name's Edward Starr. I live at 15 Fairbairn Gate. And this presentation expresses our concern about the communications tower that has been erected at 14 Fairbairn Gate without required Industry Canada and Town of East Gwillimbury approvals. The proponent, which includes an experienced internet provider offering commercial internet services from our neighborhood, was fully aware of the required approval process, yet chose to ignore the process and erect the tower without approval in direct contravention of Industry Canada and Town of East Gwillimbury requirements. Their decision to not submit an application and to not go through the required consultation process shows a lack of respect for the community and a lack of ethics by the proponent. This deliberate disregard for the community, the Town of East Gwillimbury, and Industry Canada alone should be sufficient to deny approval and require the tower to be removed. We've actually gone and spoken to several internet providers, both large and small, and all confirmed that this reflects poorly on their sector and that all responsible providers must and do follow required protocols. In deciding whether to approve a tower, Industry Canada requires the Land Use Authority, which is your municipality, to evaluate the application in accordance with its zoning bylaw. This is set out clearly in the guideline published by the Canadian Radio Telecommunications and Information Notification Service, known as CRINS, which sets out the Industry Canada approval process for such towers. As it happens, I'm a registered professional planner and a member of the Canadian Institute of Planners, and I was one of the founding members of the Ontario Professional Planning and Planners Institute some 40 years ago. It's amazing how time flies. The Town of East Gwillimbury zoning bylaw designates Fairbairn Gate as a low-density residential neighborhood. A commercial use of this nature is not permitted in a low-density residential area. Further, fundamental planning principles would also find that a structure of this scale is incompatible with the character of the neighborhood and has a significant negative impact on a stable residential area. Accordingly, I would argue that the town is required to report to Industry Canada that the tower does not comply with the town's zoning bylaw, and therefore the town should not be in concurrence with approval. There's a few other items that we would like to speak about further. Adjacent residents are finding that the tower emits severe glare into their properties and negatively impacts their enjoyment of these properties. And if I can, would you be able to show me how to advance? There. So this is a shot that was taken recently from an adjacent property. This is what we have to look at when the sun shines. Further, there's already a proven internet provider serving the area, which is called ExploreNet, from a nearby local tower on Catering Road. So we can't understand the need to erect another tower in such close proximity, especially a tower which is incompatible with a residential land use. Both Industry Canada and the Town of East Gwillimbury protocols make it clear that internet providers must share existing towers or find fully appropriate locations for their operations. ExploreNet also offers an option to connect to internet by satellite. So again, we don't see a compelling reason why a tower of this nature needed to be erected in a residential area. The tower was erected without providing Industry Canada or the town of East Gwillimbury with any plans and specifications, which is also an approval requirement. The proponent only showed the plans to Industry Canada and the town after the tower was already erected, and several local residents expressed concerns. No responsible proponent would have built the tower first and then shared the plans with the relevant authorities afterwards. This is backwards. This is an open invitation to an unethical proponent to build structures that may not be safe and could lead to serious safety issues. We're also aware that the ground on which the tower has been erected is quite wet and unstable. We provided a handout which shows a picture of the typical ground conditions around the tower, and is a poor site on which to erect a structure of this scale and weight. This directly threatens the safety of adjacent residents if the tower were to collapse. Finally, concurrence with this, and I believe this is the most compelling argument, concurrence with the tower would be an extremely dangerous precedent for the town of East Gwillimbury to set by allowing a tower to be erected without approval, indeed without even submitting an application. The town would be opening the door to anyone who wished to erect a tower to proceed with impunity, which could result in a host of such towers being erected in unsuitable locations and unsafe conditions throughout the town. We think you should be thinking long and hard about the precedent you would be setting. So just to conclude, we're one other item which we're a little unable to determine whether it's really a town issue or an Industry Canada issue, but nevertheless, we are puzzled by the fact that the proponent is still being allowed to operate, take money from customers, and try to sign up more customers, despite the fact that the tower has not been approved, and this is admitted by all parties. Why is the operation being allowed to continue before a decision has even been made, whether or not to approve the tower or to deny the tower? And we're at a loss to understand how that could happen if I were operating a restaurant and my food service had not been approved. You can bet I would be shut down in 5 seconds. So these are some issues that we believe are important for Council to consider as we start into this process. We have met with staff who have now worked with the proponent to give him an opportunity to submit an application, and we're awaiting the results of the whole process with bated breath. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel like I know you. You've sent a number of emails and kept us up
Yes.
to date, and very much appreciate that. I'm wondering if staff at this point, I'm not sure, could you make some comments to Mr. Starr's presentation?
Sure, Madam Mayor. Staff have prepared a memo and it's on the agenda. And the idea with the memo was to identify that a resident had made a complaint about the tower, and to spell out what the proposal really was in terms of dealing with the situation. I think in terms of how staff are proposing to proceed, I would like to sort of say it's really a measured and considered response. It's kind of there's kind of an unfortunate jurisdictional issue at play, in the sense that these towers are really regulated by the federal government, and it's my view that the federal government through Industry Canada can issue approvals for these structures without without strict compliance upon or strict conformity with municipal zoning. Municipal zoning certainly is a relevant factor that anyone should consider when considering whether or not council would issue a letter of concurrence for the tower, or whether Industry Canada would ultimately issue an approval. So yes, zoning is a relevant consideration, but other relevant considerations remain community need. And I mean, is there a need for this type of service? Is this the best location for this type of service? Is this the type of structure that should provide the service or not? So staff, in trying to figure out a way to deal with the problem, kind of recognize that there was a process that exists, and there was a process that should have been applied. So in terms of moving it forward, the staff proposal is to apply that process, have the public consultation, hear from the public in terms of, what are the issues in terms of compatible uses, as Mr. Starr has indicated. What are the needs in terms of service, have the discussion, and then collect that information and bring it forward to council once that process is complete. And I think the other thing that staff would have to do too is provide some recommendation in the report. And so in terms of the next steps, it's really run the proponent, the property owner, with the tower through that process, collect the information, come back to council with recommendations. At that point, I think really the job for council is to kind of consider, well, where do the equities and the needs lie? What's the best decision for the community or not? Either concur with the installation or reject the installation, notify Industry Canada, and then Industry Canada will make its best decision, but having had the benefit of the consultation undertaken by the town.
Mr. Horner, when you talk about public consultation, could you describe what that would be for those people in the audience, please?
Certainly, to you, Madam Mayor, I can jump in with respect to the public consultation. It's not the same as a formal public meeting under the Planning Act, but the Industry Canada protocol and the Town of East Gwillimbury protocol does identify the need for the proponent to come in with an application and to hold their own public consultation meeting with the immediate neighborhood. They're supposed to take those comments in, provide a report and an outline of all the comments and issues heard back to planning staff. Planning staff will also be in attendance at the meeting, and we will then take that information and prepare a report for outlining the issues that were heard and recommendations for council with respect to whether council agrees or doesn't agree with the installation of the tower, and they then get forwarded on to Industry Canada. I may add, because I know Mrs. Starr is, the owners have requested the information. We've contacted the proponent and have asked him to submit a formal application by the end of December, with the hopes of holding that public consultation process in the new year, before the end of January, hopefully.
If I could just probe a little bit more, I'm just trying to understand. We have people in the audience today who aren't familiar with our processes, and this is one that is a little different than what we would normally be dealing with. A planning application, we would be meeting here as a public consultation, having people within the audience who are able to come up and speak. Could you just share how that would unfold?
Certainly, it's a good point, Madam Mayor. So a venue hasn't been selected yet, but there will be a venue, and the opportunity will be there for residents to make their concerns heard verbally and also in writing. And not only that, I think we've also advised these residents that they can submit their comments directly to the planning department if they choose as well. And so once that open house is held, they can make their verbal comments, written comments. The expectation is that the proponent will then report back in a way of a formal report to town staff with respect to identifying all the comments that were heard. We will also have those comments directly that we would receive directly from the residents, and then we will then compile all that information and prepare a report for a future council consideration. We will endeavor also to apprise the residents of the area when that meeting is going to be held, even though it's the proponent's obligation to send out individual mail-outs to everybody, but we will also then let residents know when we are going to be reporting back to this committee and council in the new year.
Thank you. Just to make it clear then. So what will happen is there will be a consultation, and folks that are here, folks that are listening, folks that you want to share it with, input will be taken from that staff. Our staff will write a report, and the report will be brought forward to a council meeting, at which time you're quite welcome to be in the audience. And at that point, the information that we have before us, and I'm sure other questions that will come up along the way, then that will be answered, and then council will make a decision at that time.
If I may I make one comment? also?
Certainly.
We did contact Industry Canada because this jurisdictional issue is very sticky. What the reply we received, and the town may believe that the decision is Industry Canada's decision, but what Industry Canada told us in writing is that they abide by the evaluation of the local municipality as to whether this is a suitable location for such a tower. Therefore, you have a great deal of influence on this decision. So one cannot sit back and say it's not our jurisdiction. The town must give its concurrence or non-concurrence, and that will really be the key factor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Persechini?
Since I lived at Fairbairn Gate, I don't think I would want a big tower like that. So we got to do all our best we can to make sure that this somehow gets shut down, because we can't have this, happening somewhere else too. So that's my take on it. I hope that all this consultation, talking back and forth, will resolve something, that this is not going to happen anywhere anymore, and people have to go through the proper procedure. Thank you.
I might suggest those that are in the audience, if you didn't sign in and leave your information, please make sure that you're on the sign-in list, so when it comes to having future meetings, we have that list of residents that we can be in contact with. Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I appreciate, Mr. Starr, your presentation. I know we've had some correspondence in the past, and I would just direct this question to staff. I know when I was initially contacted, I've had folks like Mr. Starr reach out to me against the tower, and I've had folks saying that they're in support of the tower. So it's probably going to be a problem worthy of Solomon by the time we get through with it. But for me, when I initially was involved with this, I found that there was a lot of uncertainty or lack of clarity around jurisdiction and who does what. And so I'm wondering, as we get through this process, at the end of it, is there an opportunity for us to update our bylaws, our protocols about how we approach this? Because I am concerned that I don't want to be going through this again. I want to make sure that we have very clear rules of engagement so that all our residents know how we play by. I've just welcome your feedback if you think that there's room for improvement here in the way we conduct our business.
I think that this will be an important discussion to have in the community, because the need for quick internet access is apparent and real, but the interests of the community in terms of compatibility of uses is equally important and real. So I think it'll be a great discussion, and we'll kind of identify issues that relate to ways in which our existing protocol can be improved. And so I think it will be a positive exercise, regardless of whatever the outcome is as it relates to the particular tower.
And if I may, sorry, I would also say we've got a number of our residents here. We're all in favor of excellent internet service. We all rely on the internet. I have to tell you a story. I do focus groups with seniors for seniors housing, and I asked a group of seniors the other day, would you like in this new seniors housing project cable TV? Maybe no. How about internet? Absolutely. No internet, no life from our seniors. So we would be totally in favor of working with the town, the community, to find a location, but one that's suitable. And this is anything but.
Thank you. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess for me, it comes down to, well, I guess my first comment is that this is an example of how it's clear that we have some deficiencies in our broadband services in our community. And the fact that this has even come up is an issue because we have deficiencies and we have to find a way to address that. The question is not a question of need, but of location. And for me, I don't see an opportunity or any kind of a consultation process that would have me approving this in an estate residential neighborhood. We got to find a better place for it. I guess my question, Madam Mayor, through you to staff is, given that the proponent decided to skip over the process of applying for approval, is there anything stopping us from simply issuing a letter of non-concurrence and advising Industry Canada that this is not compatible with zoning? Why wouldn't we just skip that part of the process too?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think council is free to issue that letter of non-concurrence today.
Mr. Webster.
I've been observing these towers for quite a while, and gray is a good word, I think, in the jurisdictional capacities, and I've relied on our expert staff. I think there's a lot of gray areas here. I'm not even sure on the concurrence or non-concurrence. I've asked staff, was a building permit required? And that's a gray answer. So you have, is a building permit required? What's the municipal role? I think there's a lot of grayness. I know the proponent, or we call him a proponent, the homeowner, is here and is listening and wanted to not turn this into a real-time debate at this point. I just met him briefly this morning, and I think what he was hopeful of was to listen and have it directed back to staff and for council. So I'll just say I'm not going to advise on whether issuing a letter of non-concurrence is advisable or not. And I think it's an option available to council, but listening and working this thing out either in its existing location or it being moved is another option as well. And I think that one of the things I've seen in these matters is a lot of time resident groups for the cell communications and that I've seen actually where they're out petitioning. And I'm not sure what role the municipality took on, but the towers seem to have stayed up or have been put up after the petitions have gone on. So I guess what I'm really saying, Madam Mayor, in this case here, to give this a timeline might be a better idea to so it doesn't have a no end to it. I understand the gentleman's points as well. So maybe what we could do is request that the complete application is submitted prior to year end. We do work until next Tuesday. Secondly, to work with the proponent if it isn't quite complete, to make sure it's complete, and to make sure the consultation occurs in a very timely manner with the community, that we do have staff attend the meeting. We've had staff attend a meeting recently for a tower going up in King Township, as you recall. And that we report back and allow for other discussion and debate in this chamber if council so chooses.
Thank you. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Through you to staff, when did we become aware of this tower having been erected? How long has it been up and in operation?
Might I
Mr. Starr may know.
Well, I have an email which we contacted our two local councillors as it was being erected July the 3rd.
So July to December, we've been aware of this and we've had no application submitted. So we've reached out to the homeowner, the resident that said, you've put up a tower, you didn't have approval, here's the process, and we still don't have an application in place. Thank you.
Councillor Morton.
I was first made aware of this just weeks before our election last time. I was at the door and met a lovely lady who I stood and talked to for about 20 minutes, half an hour, right across the road from the tower. And I have to agree with Councillor Roy-DiClemente. That tower does not belong in a residential area, and especially in that area with the with the size of the houses and how wonderful those houses are. And I know that Mr. Romano visited up there shortly after I had mentioned, and that was still before the election. So it's been going on a lot longer than just from this July to this December. It's been over a year. And if we haven't received the papers that we should have, then something has to be done about it.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Roy-DiClemente that there's definitely a need. You mentioned satellite. Satellite wouldn't be really a good way if you want to stream things, but there's certainly a need. But I think it's the location that is problematic and the following of the rules. And I think that you brought up some good points about setting a precedent. I've just been here on Google Maps looking at exactly where it's located and the area around it, and there's certainly it's not appropriate in an estate subdivision, as it's been said by my colleagues. So I would encourage staff to make sure that we do everything we can to rectify the situation. I'm sorry that it's been since July, and you're just now in council chambers talking to us about it. I think it's something we definitely need to take action on. Thank you.
Mr. Romano, you had talked about a process, and how quickly can that process take place?
To you, Madam Mayor, we have had discussion staff with the homeowner who has constructed the tower. I think he came in today. Once we have that application, then we will direct him to hold that public meeting with the area residents. I think we've indicated that that should be done, in light of the holiday season, early in the new year, and then we can report back to council, likely in during the February cycle.
It would seem to me, in listening to members of council, that the February cycle seems a little late. And I'm wondering how we can move this along, knowing that there is a holiday period where we are not meeting. I do believe we meet the second week of January. I'm wondering if that's an option, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Horner, as well, to try and solve this as late as it is. Let's do it right, and make sure that we followed all of the rules to make sure that our decision is binding, whatever that may be. Comments, Mr. Horner?
It just seems to me that January seems really tight to advertise a meeting and to drum up attendance, for lack of a better word, whether it's pro or con. My preference would be to queue it up for February, but with the assistance of the applicant, we could try for January. Is it the applicant? Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Could you,
Maybe.
Perhaps I could ask Mr. Starr to take a seat, and if you have something to briefly that will help us move along. Your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Brian Smith. I'm the owner of the property in question. So first and foremost, I just want to establish the tower was built in July of this year. It has not been there. I only own the Property since April 23rd, May 23rd of this year. The tower, I did contact the town. So I came into the town offices here. I spoke to them before I did this. I was given bad advice on that. On July 2nd or 3rd, when the tower was erected, We did have people from the town visit. Again, I was told that this was going to be looked into if there was a permit. I was told there was no permits. There's no any requirements for this. The town is not interested in personal communications towers. So this was not put up maliciously. I did not try and bypass town protocols at all. I have absolute respect for these. Under the Industry Canada guidelines, it actually says the towns can opt out and exempt personal communications towers, and it specifically says personal communications towers that are usually exempted from this that are on private property, which is what my tower was erected for. It's the only way that I can possibly get internet service to my home. So yes, I know that other people think that satellite is an option. Even the CRTC has said that that's not a viable option. It needs to be at least 50 megabit service. It needs to be unlimited, and it needs to be affordable in order for it to fall under that qualification. The only means to achieve that in an area like Fairbairn Gate is to erect a tower that makes it over the conservation forest that surrounds us and the hills that surround us on the west side. The only thing that accomplishes that is a tower of at least 26 meters. So this was all investigated. I do apologize for all of this. I feel horrible, really I do, because a lot of people are upset. I had gone around, spoken with the neighbors about what the internet options were, what I was going to have to do to get internet. Everybody felt that this was not an issue, or at least not, they didn't tell me. So I do apologize again. This was not my intent to put something in there that is abnormal, obnoxious, or anything. In terms of speaking with the town, I had a meeting this morning with the associate solicitor and I believe some of the town planning committee. I'm not 100% of exactly what their titles are, but I do know the people's names if it's of interest. We discussed a couple of the issues that are standing before us right now. I've provided the town not only with the drawings as requested from the manufacturer to demonstrate that the tower itself was erected and is safe and what its wind tolerances are, what it's capable of doing. I've also provided maps of where it actually is. I provided names of all the companies that I've spoken with, everybody that's gone through this to tell me that this was a necessary need to go into the communication. I also want to point out I have absolutely zero interest at all financially with the company that has been put onto the tower that is providing internet to the neighborhood. Nothing. I had no intention of providing commercial services off of this tower. I was approached by the East Gwillimbury Committee for Better Internet, I believe is the proper name for them, about a month after the tower was erected. It was my understanding that he heard about this, he saw it, something from the town. He came by to ask if I would host a commercial provider that they provide, that he would recommend. They came in, he put up a piece onto here. I don't make $1 off of any signups. I don't make $1 off of anybody staying on for any period of time. I get a flat rate fee to pay for the electricity and the snow clearing and the other things that I need to provide for them. And that's it. And it is very modest. I'm definitely not recovering the money that I put up for this tower. So this was never put up again. This was not some kind of commercial enterprise that I went up to try and get rich on, or I'm trying to screw over, I'm trying to get in and do something inappropriate. This absolutely did not happen this way. So I apologize to the residents of the community. I realize that this was not the way things should have played out after the fact. I was told by Industry Canada that yes, I was supposed to, even though I had gotten verbal communication from the town that there was no interest in pursuing any concurrence, I guess would be the correct term, on personal communications towers. They said there was nothing for it. There's no building permits. There's no requirements. There's no bylaws. So I should have gotten that in writing. That was my mistake. I am absolutely owning that. So I'm going to try and work with the town as quickly as I can to get this done. I think right now what the biggest problem is the town's current protocol as it's written, and I've outlined a ton of problems with it. It's extremely detrimental to anybody that lives in any of these rural communities that needs to put up a tower like this. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars of fees of consulting. I'm looking at application fees that are almost $1,000. I'm looking at let me see here. I'm looking at licensed engineers I would have to pay, which is $2,000 to $3,000. Again, these are above and beyond for a personal communications tower. This is essentially a glorified TV tower, is what it is when you go look at it. The only difference between theirs and mine is theirs is attached to their house. Mine is the self-supporting structure. Mine will survive 1/2 inch of ice at 85-mile-per-hour winds. So it's structurally sound. I mean, this is why we chose this method. Didn't want to have any risks.
Okay, thank you very much. It was important to hear from you and understand as well. I think, and I'm kind of looking at the nods here, we have asked staff to come back with a report, and I think that's exactly what we should be doing at this time. So with that, I would ask you to take your seat.
That's great. I was just reminded, I do want to just remind one more thing. Of the town, I was only just literally made aware in the last 7 days that the town wanted me to follow any protocol or requirements. This is not something that I've been aware of since July. I've not been made aware of this at all.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'm hearing that staff are going to get back to us with a report. We're going to proceed and sort this one out. At the end of the day, council will receive some information from our staff to make a determination at that time, and it sounds like it's going to be late January. Mr. Webster.
I think we can be even more specific than that, given that this one has had a few various issues raised today. A number of them with regards to town staff positions, which I'm not aware of as administrator. So I'd like to fully review those as well with our team. So we do have our first formal committee of the whole and council meeting, I believe, are in the new year, are on January, and I'll refer to the clerk, January 21st. It happens to be a 7 o'clock meeting as well, which is an evening meeting, which I think would be good for the residents in that area. And we'll be hopeful of having a complete application, having the necessary consultation, and having some form of report available for public deliberation for that evening session. I think that would be our target if I could get some nods from our staff team here. And one thing I would like to make clear is, even though this may have been erected in July, again, that's news to my office. To me, this came apparent more recent than that, when it escalated. And so we'd like to really check on the timelines and the interaction of town staff and the involvement and some of these other statements that, in fact, that have been presented today.
Thank you. Councillor Persechini.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just got an email approximately 2 weeks maybe ago, am I correctly? And I wasn't even aware of this. So I don't know why this stuff has been going on for a long time. It wasn't, so I wasn't aware of it. So I cannot help something if I don't know.
With a report coming forward, everyone will be aware of all the steps along the way. So we will work towards that then. And I do urge residents in the audience to make sure that we have your contact information. And I'm quite sure that you will be hearing from staff as well. Good. I have a motion here to receive and staff report back. Councillor Persechini, any questions on that? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much for being here. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
I just wanted to note that the motion to receive would include Mr. Starr's deputation as well as Mr. Smith's deputation.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that we were clear, because that wasn't part of our agenda, that we were having 2 deputants. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, we have no other deputants at this time. Is that correct?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will move to item F on our agenda, and that's Emergency and Community Safety Services with Councillor Roy-DiClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are no prepared items on our agenda today. Chief, do you have anything to bring forward at this time?
Through Your Honor, with respect, none at this time.
Okay, members of committee, anything further to raise? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item G under Legal and Council Support Services just has one item, and I think we've already covered that, but I still will turn it to Councillor Foster.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just the one memo regarding the communications towers. Is there anything further, Mr. Horner?
Nothing further, Mr. Chair, no.
Can I have a mover?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we receive the memorandum and that a report be prepared for the council meeting of January 21st.
I'm good with that, Mr. Clerk. Can I have a mover? So, Sarah just did. Anything further on that? Any further questions? So we can move ahead with a vote to put that forward. All in favor? And opposed? That would be carried. Anything further, Mr. Horner? And I think with that, I can turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under item H, that's Development Services with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 3 items on the agenda today. The first one is Development Services Planning Branch Report, P019-062, revised site plan control bylaw. Mr. Ramuno, would you like to enlighten us on this?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce our new addition to a new staff person to the planning branch, Antonio Greco, who is in the audience. I wanted to introduce Antonio to council. He started with us yesterday, latest addition to the planning branch. He's our new development planner, will also assume the role of secretary treasurer to the Committee of Adjustment. So just like to welcome Antonio.
Thank you, Worship Council. I'm very excited to be here, part of the East Gwillimbury planning team. I'm looking forward to the planning process and making sure the potential and we maximize all the potential EG has. And thank you again.
I don't have the chair right now. Councillor Crone has the chair.
We're really standing on protocol. Mr. Webster.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to bring up one other fact. In our diversity and inclusion mandate that we've also adopted this year, Antonio is not a hockey player. As a matter of fact, Antonio was a professional soccer player in the Toronto FC chain, and he's a coach now in that system. So it's good to see that we're getting diverse in our sports as well. So thought I'd note that. So we welcome Antonio to the organization.
Well, I think we'll forego a motion about recommending you for a Human Rights Award, but welcome, Mr. Greco, to Team East Gwillimbury. Okay. Mr. Ramuno, would you like to carry on with your presentation?
Certainly, through Mr. Chair. So the first report is a revised site plan control bylaw. So bringing this report forward for council's consideration. The intent here is to update our site plan control bylaw, which dates back to the early 1980s. It was amended once in the mid-2000s to deal with the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Area. So the intent here is really to provide council with an updated bylaw for their consideration in the new year. And what I've outlined in the report is essentially proposing that we create a couple different categories of major and minor applications. I'm also suggesting to council that I've identified the opportunity of trying to expedite the development applications to create a basic site plan category that if council wishes, they could be delegated to myself, to the planning department, where we deem those applications to be relatively minor in scale. However, the major and minor applications will always be brought to council with a full report for your consideration and approval of the site plan. Again, the site plan process is really an exercise in engineering and design. And it's meant to deal with ensuring that any future development is consistent with our official plan and zoning bylaw. Again, we've done a survey of neighboring municipalities, and I think this is the opportune time to update our bylaw to bring it into the best practices as some of our neighboring municipalities. And again, as I mentioned, our current bylaw dates back a number of decades. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. Could I have a mover for this first? Councillor Persechini. Okay. Are there any questions? Councillor Foster.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just wonder if when we move forward with this, if we could have an explanation of why and why not. Some of them would require and some of them would not, and that will probably be part of the report that's coming forward. And one of the other things that I thought might be helpful for a new councillor like myself, if we could have some examples as to how this revised bylaw would have or may have changed some of the decisions or the process of some of the things that have happened in the past year since I've been here, just to give me a better scope of the improvements that would be made. Thanks.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can certainly do that when we bring the bylaw forward. We can have another addendum report just explaining the difference between a major and a minor application. In my opinion, I mean, any new non-residential application, whether it's a commercial application or even for instance, the first site plan application that you will see in the new year will be the seniors retirement home on the north side of Mount Albert, just to the north of us. That is a large-scale application that would fit the bill of a major application. It would undergo the full scrutiny of a review and a full report to council for consideration and approval. My suggestion with respect to the basic site plan process that you may want to delegate to staff, those are situations where you may already have an existing structure, for instance, along one of our village corridors, Leslie Street or Mount Albert, one of the other communities, where they're proposing a minor addition to the rear or the front, depending on the scale. That would fit into that grouping of what could be a basic type of application that would be delegated to staff. Notwithstanding that, our intent is still to circulate to all members of senior staff and council all those former applications that are received, so you'll be aware of them and whether council approves delegating some of these to staff or not. If you do, we will provide regular quarterly or biannual reports to council indicating which applications were dealt with at a staff level.
Are there any other questions? I think certainly from my perspective, and if I'm paraphrasing you, Mr. Ramuno, correct me if I'm wrong, this is incorporating and updating our processes with some best practices of surrounding municipalities, and I think the aim is to increase our efficiencies. Am I wrong?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. That's correct, especially with the with providing clear indication in the bylaw, those type of developments that are subject to site plan control, whether it's a major or minor or a basic. Currently, our site plan does not indicate types of applications. It's just a bylaw that identifies the entire municipality under site plan control. What you really need to do in the bylaw is identify what applications are exempt, and typically what's always exempt from site plan control are detached housing. Typically they've already gone through a subdivision process, etc. But all sort of major residential, mixed use, high-rise residential, and all non-residential, industrial, commercial, institutional, should always be subject to site plan control, a full formal application. And then again, as I mentioned, if we have sort of those minor or basic type of applications, minor development, small additions, they can be considered as basic, and if council so chooses, delegate to staff. And again, that really just expedites the process where we can deal with that at a staff level as opposed to writing reports to council. But again, that's for council's consideration, and we'll provide additional detail along with a draft bylaw for council in the new year.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, can we have a vote then to receive and give guidance for staff to proceed with this? All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. All right, second item on our agenda is the planning branch report, site plan application, Crupi's East Gwillimbury Investment, 98 Sluse Road, east of Holland Landing Road and north of Oriole Drive. Mr. Ramuno, could you give us a little more detail on this, please?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. So this is another development opportunity, economic development opportunity type of application. It's Sluse Road. This is an expansion to the existing self-storage facility on Sluse Road. They're proposing through this site development application the addition of 7 new storage facilities, in addition to the 3 existing structures that date back to the early 2000s.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I have a mover for this, please? Moved by Councillor Carruthers. Are there any questions? Mayor Haxon?
Not a question, just a comment that I was here in 2003 when this was actually put forward, and I'm pleased to see how you have grown. I think from looking at the report that you're now proposing to make it larger than what you originally had in size. So congratulations on that, and we're pleased to see you growing and employing people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, let's go ahead with a vote. All those in favor? None opposed? Motion is carried. All right, last item on our agenda is the Development Services Planning Branch Report, Planning Application Status List. Mr. Ramuno, could you share a little more with us?
To you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is simply a information report for council. This is our second planning application status list report to council. I think the first one was back in just before the summer. So this is just an update for council. And since the last time we reported, there have been three new planning applications that have been received and included in the planning status list. As well, you'll notice if you go through the chart at the back, any change since the last time we reported to council, we've identified in red lettering just to indicate to council any changes to those various applications.
Thank you. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Roy-DiClemente. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, can I have a vote? All those in favor? None opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any other questions for Mr. Ramuno? If I could just say a few words on behalf, you're approaching your 1-year anniversary with us here at the town, so congratulations, you made it. And I think I lost $5. I'm kidding. And there hasn't been a committee of the whole where we didn't have something from your area. So congratulations, you've been a busy man. I know you've been putting your stamp on things in the department, and you're making great headway. Thank you very much. If that's all there is, I will hand the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services with Councillor Carruthers in the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is a report about the waste collection tag pilot program, and I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Molinari.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really, it's just a reminder for council that our new bag tag program will be starting in January 2020. We have included 5 complimentary bag tags in the new waste management calendar for 2020. So residents will have an opportunity to try out the new program and see how they like it and have more options in order to be able to dispose of their waste. So that's just a quick summary for council's information.
Thank you very much. Can I have someone move receipt of the report? Councillor Foster. Any questions? Councillor Morton.
Thank you. Through you to a question through concerning the that I've had from certain people in the town in Mount Albert, that they do get the 2 bags, but then they get 2 more, or they can have 2 more to go around the top that can have them picked up, right? But say, I'll use the Legion for an example, because they have rentals and everything there. Quite often through the 2 weeks, they have more than, say, the 4 bags that they are can use up to this point. So will they, and they're on a list from what I understand, as are others. So can I just get that verified so I can answer some of their questions?
Mr. Molinari.
Through Madam Chair, the exemption list has been removed. So as a result, those people that are on the exemption list have been given complimentary tags in addition to the 5 collection tags that are in the calendar. So everybody can set out 2 bags as per the normal program. Anything above the 2 bags would need a collection tag on it, and they can set out more than 2 bags if they wished. The program is really intended for people who have who may have had a party or something and have extra waste. instead of not having an option other than to take it to the facility themselves, they can set out that waste at the curb. As long as it's got a collection tag on it, our staff, the GFL, will pick that up and take that away.
I'll let them know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Persechini.
Thank you. To the general manager. If I wanted to buy 10 tags for the year, is there a better price for that?
Mr. Molinari.
I thought I asked.
Through Madam Chair, there are 5 complimentary tags. So there's the freebie, and the tags are $2 each, and they're sold in groups of 5.
No, I was just trying to make some money for the town. That's all. Last time I tried to do that at an auction, it cost me $1,500.
Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I've shared some of the town's posts about this, a very well received response, I think, on social media. The one piece of feedback that I would share is that there was a request for alternate locations to be able to purchase the tags, so that if you're in part of the remoter areas of the community, they'd like to be able to access it elsewhere. I didn't clear it with Monica first, but I might suggest that the library might be an option as a service delivery. I know we used to have yard waste stickers available at the counters, so there may be a way of doing it that. But the feedback was simply that they would like another option of a location to purchase tags, but otherwise very well received by the community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent. And that is in the report that staff are going to be looking for alternative places. So we just need to get a push on that. This is a pilot program for a year. So I think that's one of the things that will be rolled out. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Another opportunity. I know that our arena is open 7 days a week and we have staffing in there as well. It may not be in the local area. However, it is open hours that the town office is not. So that may be another one. And I would suggest if there's others that think about it later to share it with staff as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Persechini.
I just want to say that positive. This is a great program. I mean, besides I wanted to buy some tags, but this is going to work really great for the people when they have parties or they have a lot of things going on, and it's great. So we don't have to go to all the way down to Ravenshoe to pay $15 for 4 bags. So this is great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Molinari, do you have anything else for us?
Through you, Madam Chair, nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have anything for CIES? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're on item J with Councillor Persechini in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have one item here. Community Park Recreation and Culture Facilities, page 71 to 74 you have in front of you. Branch report CPRC 2019-31, tender awards for the Contact T 19-13 Sport Complex Refrigeration Plan Replacement. Mr. Catania, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report is to award replacing aging ice plant infrastructure, the current equipment that has reached its end of its life cycle based on ASHRAE models. The first phase of this project was the replacement of the chiller on the Atlas pad this past summer of 2019. This phase of the project right now requires chiller pumps valve replacements of the NewRoads ice pad. CPRC is tendered as per the procurement bylaw. 5 firms picked up tender documents, 3 firms attended a site visit. And it's our experience with past projects that there's a limited number of qualified firms that can perform this type of work. This is a guarded refrigeration plant that's registered with the Technical Standards and Safety Authority. And for this tender here, building reserve funds are allocated for these asset replacement projects. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Catania. Can I have a mover, please? Mover by Councillor Crone. Any questions from members of the committees before we vote? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report suggests that we need to amend the budget. The quotes came in a little bit higher than we had anticipated. What is the funding source for that additional funds required for the budget?
Mr. Catania.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is through our building reserve funds.
Members committee, any other questions before we call a vote? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Do you have any other reports, Mr. Catania? Do you want to bring it forth?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not at this time.
Okay, so if there's any further reports, I'll move it back to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're under item K, Corporate Services with Councillor Morton in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have nothing on the agenda for today. Mr. Valchich, do you have anything you need to be brought up to council?
Nothing further, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Valchich? Hearing none, I turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under item L, and that is administration with myself in the chair. We do not have any reports at this time. Mr. Webster, do you have anything to bring forward to committee?
Not at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Then we will move to other business. And I believe we have a workshop topic. I also have a letter, Mr. Lamanna. Where are we going to deal with that one? The letter in front of, in council. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure, didn't want to pass it by, not have an opportunity. So with that, we are under item M with workshop topics, and who's going to, Mr. Webster, could you lead with this, please?
I think when we last updated, we had a little bit of a miscue in our scheduling. So I believe we have workshops scheduled for January, February, and March. And so our first meeting of council in the new year is actually a workshop meeting. And so we're proposing two potential topics at this time, diversity and inclusion. We're hopeful of having a speaker from York Regional Police might be able to show us some of the leading practices they have. Our Director of Human Resources, Michelle Collette, will update on what our organizations, what steps we've been taking underneath the that plan since it's been adopted, the initiative. And I think we also would like to invite the committee, the supporting committee as well, to maybe provide a few comments on what they've been doing in their volunteer time as well. The second topic there is we're looking at a transformational review of the organization and in the new year as part of the work plan. And we would like to bring some principles forward in public session of what the objectives of that would be. So we're hoping to do it in public. We don't want to have to move into private and deal with individuals and such, but we want to be able to talk about some of the high level goals that we think will align with the council strategic plan. The February workshop at this point in time is dedicated to growth management. So a full update on some of our practices there, where we sit. And so usually what we have is a multi-department update of all the various elements that we've undertaken and plan to undertake. And then the March workshop, I believe that council was wanting to have a sort of roll up your sleeves session on our reserves and some of comparative practices in other municipalities. I think we might also want to take a look at maybe some of the debt levels that are out there and some of our not too distant communities out there, just to sort of see how our financial shape is. And so Mr. Valchich's team will be preparing something for the March workshop. So that's our first three workshops, and then I think we'll have a couple months off and then reinitiate prior to mid-year.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Get them in our books and be ready to go with them. No other business at this time. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
I just wanted to commend Mr. Lamanna on his jacket. He is here in all of his sartorial splendor, and I wanted to commend him for that.
Duly noted. Thank you. And with that, can't do any better than that. We will adjourn. Oh, you have a comment. Go ahead.
No comment, Madam Mayor, just a suggestion for committee to consider, as we have in past years. My recommendation to council is to ratify all of the CWC recommendations at tonight's council meeting. I believe there was one report that's already requesting that, but the other ones that I'm looking at are mainly be received or inconsequential, and at least staff get started working on topics for the new year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I had forgotten that, but I know it does tie staff's hands if they're not able to move on some of these until.
We can put that resolution up on the screen for you.
Okay. Thank you. I have a mover. Councillor Crone. Any questions on this? No questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And with that, we will adjourn at 2:54 p.m. Moved by Councillor Persechini. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And we will be back here at 7 o'clock this evening.